Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to our first edition of Tech 25 Presents, panel discussion talking about technology integration from the people who are doing it every day in the classroom and throughout our district. As I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about communication and connecting with parents, and I'm joined by this wonderful panel of volunteers who were willing to take the plunge with me on our first adventure down this path. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about where they work and what students they work with. And then we're going to get into talking about the tools and strategies that they've been using throughout their career to connect with parents and share information about their classroom. So if you can start off just introducing yourself, and we'll go around the table.
Okay. I'm Kathleen Tazzi. I teach first grade at Ivy Hill School.
Kathy Reesing, and I teach kindergarten at Dryden.
Caitlin Fikes, I'm a tech facilitator at Ivy Hill and Greenbrier.
Kathleen Corley, I'm a tech facilitator at Patton and Windsor.
Corinne Wegley, a second grade teacher at Patton.
Well, great. Well, thank you guys very much for being here. And now we're going to get into the root of the conversation. So over the course of your career, when you're thinking about communicating and connecting with parents, what have been some of the most effective ways you've been able to make those connections? And what kind of tools have you used to be able to maintain them?
Well, I think it's definitely changed over time. I mean, how I reach out to my parents. Before it was creating a newsletter, sending it out on the weekends, letting them know what happened that week or what's coming up in the month. I mean, that's kind of our first level of how we're reaching out for a general audience.
I remember when I first started teaching, and email wasn't, you didn't use email as often as we use it today. And I would send home, or the kids would have reflection journals, and they would write a comment about how they were doing, and then I would comment in their journal. Sometimes I would even type it out, cut it out, glue it in the notebook, and then the parents would also read it and comment as well. So it was a great way to kind of establish that dialogue and that ongoing conversation all year. But very different from, I feel like, how I do it now. I feel like the communication is definitely more instant. It's, ongoing. They can touch base like pretty much daily through the blog or email. I feel like I email daily pretty much, and sometimes I even say like I'm on call. Even at home, you're always checking email, and so it's definitely more frequent, I think, but communicating some of the same information with parents too.
It's funny that you mentioned the newsletters, because some teachers have been transitioning over the last few years, and they still want to send the paper copy home, and then how's the easiest way to put it in your blog? And I said, you don't have to do the paper copy,
Right.
Just
And
add it in your blog.
There is that fine line between, okay, are people looking at my blog?
Right, and that's what they're worried about.
And so sometimes, you do need to send a paper copy home of some things. I think sometimes we have to figure out what needs to go home in the paper copy. But I am so glad in some ways for this new technology. I love using Twitter and not even the blog, because it is the instant thing. I don't want to write about what I did earlier in the week that everybody already forgot about, and how much our parents actually reading those pieces too. I think that was a frustration. I'd write this whole newsletter or blog, and would people see it? So I think I've transitioned to Twitter as my way of sharing with parents, and I love it.
How do you, I'm sorry, so do you know your parents are following you? How many?
Actually I haven't checked recently, but I know that most of them are following me or on
That's
Twitter.
great.
Because in the beginning of the year, we were doing school-wide, you guys know school-wide lessons, and it was talking about a place to read, and I was just thinking about it, and over lunch, I'm like, maybe I can get them to tweet me, because they drew a picture of their favorite reading spot, and I said, well, maybe I can get them to tweet me the picture. And so I just wrote it up real quick. I asked a coworker, do you think they'll do it? I said, okay. So I sent it out, and sure enough, kids started tweeting me a picture of their favorite reading spot.
That's great.
And then of course I'd showcase them, and then of course once a couple started doing it, everyone wanted to do it, and so it got more people onto Twitter, and I think pretty much everyone either tweeted me or emailed me, and I would tweet out the picture. So at least I know I got them onto Twitter.
That's great. Great idea.
Yeah, and I was just saying with email too, emailing the newsletter, like I send out a little thing just to see which parents would prefer, because some still want the paper copy, some want the email. So I do a little survey in the beginning. So then the emails, at least I feel like it gets to them.
Right.
Or even sometimes the paper copies, I find them on the floor or
Yeah,
in the
right.
hallway.
Right.
But with Twitter also, it's that instant, connection thing. And I mean, most of my parents follow me on Twitter too.
That's great.
in email, I'll send a weekly email to the parents too with just updates for the upcoming week. But I always include the link, like click here to see what we've been up to. So
Yeah.
most of them click because I have at least 80 or 90 clicks a week, because you can see on
Yeah.
Blogger how many hits you have. So I think I'm up to like 20,000. So somebody's
That's
definitely
okay.
reading it.
That's great.
And a lot of times I think it's the kids, they're so eager, especially if it's
Right.
their All About Me week. And even I usually post on Friday, sometimes it'll be Saturday, but I can always see a spike in the clicks because like they're waiting for me. Did she post it yet? Did she post it yet? Especially if it was their week. So somebody's definitely reading it, I think. But I think the kids are as excited about it too sometimes.
Yeah, and I like to connect Twitter and the general class website to email, or try to get them as interconnected as
Right.
possible so that they're actually looking at things. And even like I have a blogger of the week on my Weebly site that's a student, and so then I tweet that out so that and then their parents always
Oh,
like
yeah.
it or
Right.
retweet it or something.
I
So
tweet
it
the link to my
connects
blog
in that way.
too. So I'll
I,
tweet like, check out what
I
you've been
do
up to,
too, when
click
I
here,
update.
and then a link back to there. Although I haven't figured out how to I've tried twice and I failed both times. And I know there's a way you can do it. But I tried to get my Twitter feed embedded in my blog.
I can show you.
Okay, that would be great. Because I've tried twice. I feel like I've been using Blogger for a while, and I feel like I've like Googled and I've searched and
Yeah,
like tried to
I
teach
did
myself
that
things.
too.
So like I'll go to like the coding part and I'll embed the code. And sometimes it works. Like a lot of times it works, but sometimes it doesn't. But that was one thing that I tried
Yeah.
and I couldn't
Which
do
is
it.
nice
can
because
show
then you hopefully can kind of cut out one step eventually once you
Yeah,
start
right.
Yeah.
just getting the Twitter blog, and then you won't
Yeah,
have
right.
to repeat some of the things.
Right.
And then
That's
for
true.
parents that don't have Twitter, they can still
Right.
and
Right.
it'll
Right.
it sometimes prompts to have them
Right.
sign in, but if they don't have it, they can
Yes.
just click out and then they can still
Right.
see all
Right.
the tweets. So even like for my Weebly site, the class photos and videos page, where I used to sit there and like plug my my camera in and
Yeah.
upload and everything. Now I just link it to my Twitter media page because that's where all of
that's
my
a good way to
pictures
do
are.
it. Yeah, right.
Because I never sit there and like upload them
Yeah, right.
to my website. I just put them on Twitter.
That's a good idea.
So mostly that's how they get the pictures.
So I know you guys have talked about a couple different tools. What about, what information are you sharing? Like what in your classroom is happening that you feel has really been effective or helpful to share out? Who's doing that sharing? And kind of what responses, if any, do you get from the different groups that you're communicating with?
Corinne, you've been using Seesaw a lot this year.
Yeah. So that's a lot of the. Have you guys been using Seesaw?
Yeah, I started using it. Yeah.
Okay.
I found out about it yesterday, and there's PJ Day, right? Was it
Yeah,
PJ Day?
PD and your
PD and your
PJs
PJs.
tonight. There's a
Which
couple.
I will be doing. Yeah, see how that goes.
But that's been really nice because it really gives the students ownership over communicating the information, and it's taken it off of my plate a little bit, which is nice. So it's an iPad app, and it's all the kids have their own page or account, and they can send updates. They can put projects or type a message or record a message, a picture, anything like that. So that's been a really awesome thing this year, just to show snapshots of the day. And a lot of times it's not the polished work piece that you'd usually like, they'd work on it for weeks and then you put it on the site. It's like a snapshot, like here's what we did today, or here's what I learned and then the parents connect to it, so they only see their kid's page and they comment back, and it's almost every day we're on there, and then parents are commenting back, and they love it. It gets them really excited, and every time they finish anything, they want to go put it on Seesaw.
That's good.
I
I
think
like that.
it's awesome that like the kids, it's so easy now for them to
Yeah.
like share
Yeah, right,
themselves.
right.
Like it could
Yes.
be
Exactly.
a video, or you have like a student tweeter that'll say like a quick summary of what they
Right.
did, and it's like I think better for the parents too, because sometimes if they play with something like a makey, like you would have no idea what that is or what
Right.
it
Right.
does,
Yeah.
and so they can get like a video explanation or like
That the kid
pictures
didn't
of what they did.
Give them a lot of
Yeah,
ownership.
and that's what I like about the Twitter is trying, and sometimes you forget in the moment, and you're like, oh, I wish I took a, but sometimes just the process of what you're doing in the classroom, not always that finished product, but
Yeah.
okay, or in science, here we are trying to make frost, we were doing that the other day, but just trying to get those little snapshots so that conversation could happen at home. Oh, I noticed you were doing this in science, and every once in a while I'll ask a question, see if someone will tweet me back, but try to integrate some of those different pieces in. But I think just those little snapshots of what we are doing, those little pieces of progress. I don't know.
It's a nice daily update instead of waiting to the end of the week, I guess, for a newsletter. It's like, here's what we did, a little bit of every day.
Yeah.
And it also, since it does give the students ownership, it also teaches them about like the digital citizenship and stuff at an early age, which is kind of nice, because even with like the student tweeters, or the bloggers, they always, like, I'm not always one that officially posts it, and that's kind of the purpose, to show, like, you have to be 13 to actually have a Twitter account, and so we've had good conversations about that too, so that it's not, so they don't just think that they send out anything, they have to carefully consider it, and even Seesaw, you have to approve it before it goes anywhere, so
Right.
that's a nice feature too.
Yeah, I do like that feature on Seesaw.
Mhm.
And then I had kids who wanted to then
Sometimes you get
take
bombarded.
take it home to try to upload things. I said, no, we'll just wait on it here.
I think it depends on what it is, what information I want to communicate to, because I think through the blog, it's more of what we did during the week, but it also keeps parents updated on our curriculum and what we're covering, what we're doing. But there are also videos embedded and links to games for the kids to play and things like that. But I think when I use Twitter, at least in my mind, I always think like, ooh, like on the spot learning, like, we're doing this right here and now, and I want everybody to know. Or they were doing like the week of code, we were using Codable, and I don't know if I tweeted or the LMC tweeted, but they used the Codable, as a hashtag, I'm still learning. And they tweeted us back a couple times, and they shared it out on their their Twitter account too. So it was just building that, those connections too.
I think
So
that's
kids were
what's-
excited
I think
about
that's what's nice about Twitter is being able to connect. I think my first tweet, actually, when I said, okay, I'm going to tweet, was we were reading a book about a scientist, and I said, oh my gosh, I wonder if she's on Twitter. Let's tweet her. And I tweeted her, and she tweeted us back.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And so
awesome.
that was really fun. And so I think sometimes finding those connections, I think there's a time and place for them. It's hard to keep up with everything
Yeah.
and try to juggle it all, but some of those people are willing to tweet back, and you extend beyond. I
Especially
even
authors too.
Right, authors
too.
We've had an author like send us things, like he sent us a book, and he sent us little like things for our classroom,
Oh,
which was
that's
really cool,
awesome.
just from
Yeah.
tweeting at them.
But even we've tweeted teachers over at another school, or tweet our other classes, and it's just fun. Like we did a math problem, and our average was this. What was your average? And just kind of compare it. It
Yeah.
opens the conversation a little different way.
And so I'm curious about this piece. You guys have talked about Twitter, blogs, Seesaw, email. Thinking back on either your current, career here or in another district, are you communicating more? Do you feel like it's taking more of your time or less of your time? And then, what do you see as the result of that, either from your student perspective or from your parents that you're working with? What has kind of been the end result of that? So maybe if you could talk about the quantity of time and tools versus maybe the outcome or what you have seen come back.
I think there's like a different avenue for the kids. Like when they're doing personalized learning and things like that, they couldn't ask people questions that they can now connect with. So like baseball players, or other professionals that have Twitter accounts, they're able to have a new audience. So I think it's worth it. It takes a little bit more time to sit with them, make a question fit in that limited character account, but then they're getting a response that otherwise they would have never been able to, in a book or.
But I feel with the time that I'm taking, I used to have to take a plan period or go home and write up my newsletter to send home, and now I don't have, I feel weight off my shoulders that I don't have to do that, that I'm in the moment, taking a minute in the middle of a lesson or snapping a picture or doing it at lunch and sharing out that way. It's quick, it's instant, I'm not worried about every little detail with certain things, just getting it out there. It's less time for me in the long run. Maybe, if you count the minutes over the week, I don't know, but I feel like it's taken a lift off my shoulders.
It feels more productive too than spending that time just sitting and trying to communicate everything to parents by typing or whatever. It's you're spending a couple minutes a day sometimes just kind of, here's what we did. And I think that parents are very responsive to that, and they usually are really appreciative that they get a snapshot into that because it's something so different from how it was a few years ago without that. So I think it's kind of a cool opportunity for teachers, kids, and the parents to all kind of see what's going on.
I like these tools that aren't so burdening to the teachers, especially kindergarten, first, second grade. But it really opens up the school day to the parents. And I happen to be on Corinne's Seesaw class, so I see all these posts that the kids really, and I walk through the hall and there's students out in the hallway talking about whatever project they're doing or doing some iPad project that they're uploading to Seesaw. And then I looked, and one of your students, her dad can comment, and mom and grandma, whoever they share the link with, So on almost every project,
Mm-hmm.
they can audio comment or they can just type a little comment, and it's just so touching to see, and I'm sure that
Right.
student is
Mm-hmm.
like over the moon to have a real audience for the work that they're
Yeah.
doing in
Yeah,
school.
like I think it's not just like great that you're gonna hang it up in the classroom or the
Right.
teacher sees it and like maybe whoever passes by in the hall and when you take it home, but like how big that audience has become. Like they know that the whole class is gonna see it, their family members are gonna see it, the teachers are seeing it. If you connect with another class or like post it on Twitter, anyone could see it, and then they're totally like, wait, like this is going online. Like I have to
Exactly.
completely change how I was gonna do this
Yeah.
and
But
like
at
put
the
forward
same
their
time,
work.
I think it builds a stronger community with the classroom. Like I tweet not to the whole world, but I think of it as the focus is the people in my classroom. And I've had kids tweet me back, oh, this happened to me on the weekend, and things like that, and that they want to share. And I think that creates a stronger community, and then they're more willing to put themselves out to do things for other people to see because they feel, respected and safe, and
Mm-hmm.
so.
It definitely motivates them, and with Seesaw too, I'll have kids that will talk directly to their parents sometimes too because they know that their parents on the other side, like just waiting for the notification. So they'll be like, "Hi mom, this is what I did today," and they explain the whole thing. And then the parents sometimes will even like stretch their learning a little. They'll be like, "Oh, can you tell me about this, or what about this, or why don't we try this at home?" And so it's actually carried over into home.
Right.
With school-wide too, we've done some with choosing good fit books and stuff, and parents have commented back, well, why don't we try this kind of book? And so then the kid at the library got that notification. I handed them the iPad and I said, this is what your dad suggested, and they went and found a book to bring home that day. So it's like an instant way for them to.
I think the technology
Motivate.
piece too also just opens up, kind of like you were saying, more avenues for parents to connect. I think even when I think back to when I first started teaching, there was email, but it wasn't used as often. And sometimes I think parents only approached you if you approached them first. So I feel like this opens up so many avenues. Maybe you send out a quick email or a link to your blog and it sparks a question that they were thinking about. And they're more willing, they're more open and wanting to connect and finding ways to do that, I think, easier ways.
And I think also with Seesaw and Twitter and things where they're talking about their learning, I think it helps them apply it better and like really think about it because rather than just being done with it and moving on, when they go on to Seesaw or go on to Twitter and I ask them to type what they learned or post about what they learned, or even with blogging, it makes them think about it a lot deeper than if they just set the assignment aside and are done.
And taking ownership over their
Right,
learning.
and so they're really they like
They're
go in
reflecting.
depth and they're reflecting, and so it's really cool to see that shift.
So I could ask, how many iPads are in your class for you to be able to have them go on Seesaw?
We have 6, so and I have 24 kids.
So do you feel that you wish you had more?
Yes, of course. But Seesaw can be very quick, and sometimes I do have to kind of set a time limit for them because you'll have the kids that will sit and they'll just like post about everything they learned in that day, and they'll want to get really elaborate with it. So sometimes I do have to say, you can talk for 1 minute or whatever, but they're really pretty good about taking the iPad. It's just a class scan, so once you've scanned it, then you're good. So they can just post, click on their name, hand it to the next kid, post. So it actually goes pretty quickly. And if they're, so even with 6 iPads, they can get it done pretty quickly.
But I think once we have, that's going to be a great tool when we do have more iPads available in the classroom.
They could do it
Because
almost
sometimes
like
you want them
after
to listen and then
almost
respond,
everything.
so
Yeah.
it gets hard if you don't have
Right.
enough. But
And then they have the blogger feature now too on Seesaw. So I think, as technology usage increases, I think.
So PD in my PJs tonight will be very beneficial. That's what I'm learning.
Yes.
I mean, they've done it right. This free app, being able to scan a QR code and just see their names and they just click on it and
No
can
crazy
put any,
login.
So
no
easy.
crazy
Right.
logins.
Oh my gosh.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's,
it's so quick.
and then to invite parents, it just prints out a PDF, 1-page sheet, you put it in the child's mailbox, they download an app or go to a website and then they're connected with the class. It's,
Yeah, that's great.
they've done it right.
Yeah, it's a cool app.
Very child friendly too.
And so kind of bringing this all together, you've talked about some tools and some strategies. If there's a new teacher coming into our district or someone who wanted to start, make sure they as effective as they could be communicating with parents, what kind of challenges would you have them look out for? What kind of areas do you think that they should concentrate their time in, that you have found to be most effective? And then what improvements would you want to see? I know you talked a little bit about technology access would be one. Are there any other improvements that you would say, go out and look for these? So how would you help instruct that new staff member to get off on the right foot?
Well, I think one thing, and I was a new teacher 4 years ago, so this is the first thing I thought of, was the amount that there is. It's hard to narrow your focus sometimes, so
Right.
there's so much out there, so it's, as a new teacher, it's like, they might not know where to start, or there's so many things that everyone's doing, and then it's like, you want to like dabble in every little thing.
Right, and it's because you do need a standalone website just for them
Right.
to go to.
And
but
really
then
everything can go, like your Twitter page
Right.
can go on that, your blog can go on that.
it's like
your
you have to build the
website can
different
go on that.
levels. And I think
Uh-huh.
a lot of, at least younger teachers who are getting started, have a lot more experience with Twitter, which is helpful because it's just finding the right things to tweet out or finding the time. So at least that's good for them coming in. I feel like that's not as challenging as some seasoned teachers that have been around a little longer.
It can be
I-
tricky.
Yeah.
I think like doing what you're comfortable with 1st like if you have like familiarity with the website or if you were cool tweeting, like
Right.
focus on that first, and then if you want to explore other things and add on to it and do more,
Well,
you
I
could.
think, like a thing like Seesaw, it's not something that you're going to do on the first day of school.
Right.
Right.
And so that's something that, especially we're all younger primary, it's nice, okay, you don't have to worry about that right now, get you started with the next
Yeah.
first level and then build off of there.
Yeah.
Because you want to do it all in the beginning.
Right, and it's good to introduce it kind of slowly so that
Yeah.
you've mastered it, your kids have mastered it, and then you can add on the next step too. And also kind of seeing, when you start with one thing, seeing what you're still missing and then adding it on. Because there are plenty of other things that I could still use, but if something's meeting that,
Right.
it might be more helpful than,
More is not
or
more.
more harmful
And
than.
why
Yeah,
add
right,
more
right.
work, right?
Right,
More
exactly.
is
So
not
kind of
more.
seeing what's missing from what you're doing and, oh, I'd really like this, and then adding that on instead of just trying to pull everything onto your plate.
So Caitlin and I have used Weebly and we're in love with it, and the student accounts, we're very happy, and then sometimes photos and videos are turning upside down.
Yeah.
So
Seesaw does that too.
Seesaw
It
does
flips-
that
it flips
too?
videos. It depends on if they hold it the right way.
But there's a rotate button on the.
Is there now?
y-
There didn't used to be.
When they're editing, it is, and you
When
can,
you're editing, okay.
yeah, so they can turn it, but Weebly
So
didn't.
many are posted upside.
But that was, a great website blog, but I really like the idea. So Seesaw is really just a private learning journal between the teacher, the student, and the parent. So if you wanted to go to a wider audience, although, our primary teachers weren't really worried about that. But now the blog feature, anything you want to highlight from the students, you can put on the blog, and that will go out. So teachers could even just use that platform as their website.
Yeah.
So
That's
there's
cool feature.
they're adding nice features to it.
And we used to do Google Sites. Kathleen helped me with Google Sites for the second graders.
Second grade Google Sites now. Corinne's a brave woman.
We tried it, and it was really cool to have all of their stuff. It was all of their polished stuff. And then this year with Seesaw, I kind of had to do where you had to really think of what you wanted out of it. So that's why we went with, for primary, Seesaw, because it's that snapshot and it's appropriate for their level and everything. But it is cool with Weebly sites or with Google sites too. So I feel like every year I've almost tried something different.
know, That's
But
a
you
good
kind
and a
of
bad
have to
thing. There's
see.
new tools all the time,
Yeah.
but just do what you feel comfortable with and do one well, I'd say. Mhm.
That's what I feel more comfortable with Seesaw because than the Google sites where it was always kind of like for primary it's tricky.
Those
But I
logins
think
are tricky.
Again, you have
Yeah,
to
they are.
find what works and stick with it. So I feel like I'm at a base where I can stick.
And so it takes time for you guys to learn the tools and to master them. Maybe the last piece to kind of close this out would be, how do you work with the parents? So you guys put in a ton of time and effort to learn the tool and to produce and have kids produce. What, if anything, have you had to do with your parent community to make sure, like you said, to get a high number of followers, or at least that they're looking at Twitter, or that they're connecting and reading the blog, and understanding the value? have there been nights or activities that you've had to work with them to ensure that all of that work gets actually connected to back where they are, especially when using technology and not everyone's comfortable with it?
Curriculum night. I always
Yeah,
take some
that's a good
time
one, too.
to show everything because we will be using so much. So I usually take some time to just kind of show the site, how to use it, show where you find Twitter. And I always say you can follow me. I won't follow you back or look at your tweets if you don't want. And then just kind of show all the different features that I want them to know about. But sometimes as we go through the year and add things on, then I'll usually type something out for them to see, or sometimes a quick tutorial that I can record.
Yeah.
I know I've done that with like extra math or things, because extra math changed how it signed in, so what I had shown them then changed. So I think there are a lot of ways.
I think you have to come back and pique their interest again. Like at
Yeah.
the beginning of the year, I said, okay, tweet me this picture, and then I try to find something the next month to get them to tweet us back again. Oh, we just did a little how-to project. Try to tweet me a picture. So just to try to get their interest, get them back on. I think they need those little reminders because not everyone's comfortable doing it. I mean, and you don't. And so you're just trying to encourage them this little piece to get them started.
And I feel like I put my information everywhere too, like on every
Yes.
newsletter or whatever I said.
Right.
Yeah, it's like here, my email, my
Yes,
class
those-
site, my
yep.
Twitter site. So it's all.
And I
kind
think
of
the
in their
kids help a
face, I
lot with it
guess.
too. Like how you said,
Yeah.
having
Right.
a newsletter
Yes.
in like Word format versus having like kids pop in with their little piece will get the parents like
Yeah.
more familiar and want to look at it. Like
Yeah.
I think that's true too. I think even when we had just introduced coding during that week of code, the kids were working and they were so excited to go home and do it at home, but we hadn't sent home the coding information yet because we had just done it. And so it was them, and then the parents were contacting me, so then I put together, through an email and then through a separate sheet of paper with,
Yeah.
graphics and visuals, so they knew what to do. But they're really excited, and I think they're the motivators
Yeah.
sometimes, the
The kids
catalysts
are
for,
excited
yeah.
then.
Mhm.
It'll carry
I think
over.
taking just 2 minutes in the classroom to say, oh, look what we're doing, look what's posted, or just drawing their attention to it also gets them to want to go home and do it as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just
That's a great
sharing the
idea.
little highlights that you've
Right.
tweeted or whatever throughout the week, that gets them really excited.
And I also, I asked them, hey, tweet me a picture drinking hot cocoa. So I made my husband, okay, take a picture of me drinking hot cocoa. So just, I'm asking them to do things, so then I also try to participate as well.
Which they love.
Right.
They do.
And they even insisted for the longest time, take a picture of Mr. Tazzy, take a picture. Sorry, I have to take a picture. But just giving, participating as well.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, I want to thank you guys very much. It was wonderful. A great peek into kind of the strategies and tools and the ups and downs in that world. First and foremost, again, thank you for being part of this group. And even beyond that, the work that you guys do, connecting all of this information with parents is amazing. We've seen these tools change over the years, but it's to your testament of getting it all to the parents and keeping them connected and informed is wonderful. And I think secondarily is being able to showcase student work and empowering them to feel like they have a voice and they're connected in the process as well. So again, I appreciate you guys spending an afternoon with us and sharing some of that stuff and being a part of this group today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.